Second.
Thanks, Ladon, for the motion. Thank you, Sam, for the second. All those in favor signified by aye or a hand raise.
Aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? Great. Thank you all. And next, I'll pass it over to you, Allison, for the director comments and budget updates. And while I do that, Allison, can you also let me know, is that budget public information?
That is a good question. Let me take a look and see how that is being communicated out, actually. I don't think that the budget that is provided to the State Housing Board on a monthly basis has actually been on our website. And so as you often have questions about what is happening with that budget, I'm sure that there would be questions as well as that's provided publicly. So let me take a look at that and see what communication would need to go together with that to make that a public document.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So on that note, transparency is top of the hour. So last week with the legislative session, it ended. And so we are actively going through, or I should say the governor is actively going through all of the bills that were approved through session and signing. Yesterday, I had the honor of being able to attend the House Bill 1313 signing, which is the transportation-oriented communities bill. So many exciting things happening. The department is currently going through those bills and looking at how the implementation will progress so that we can ensure that we are meeting the expectations and the law of everything that was passed this last session. And so we are going through those implementation meetings now, looking at what that is going to mean for the Division of Housing and how we provide that greater transparency. And so, Anthea, I really appreciate you bringing up the budget, because the budget and the available funds is a critical part of that transparency. And so that will be a part of that implementation discussion. So thank you. With the passage of House Bill 1308, that included both the reporting for the Division of Housing, how we take applications, and then also contracting. And so that is actively a part of our conversations that we have right now for implementation. And so we will continue to communicate through the State Housing Board, and then also through our newsletter and with our advisory group that's just recently formed. And so with those three avenues in particular, we will continue to build out greater transparency through our work. On that note, just an update on our transformational planning. We had a kickoff meeting with our office directors last week with the department's transformational planning consultants, and next week we'll have a follow-up meeting with DOH's management team. And so that is helping build out the transformational planning for the department. And as a reminder and separate, we're also going through the organizational planning, and that's for the division, just to make sure that this is all connected for everyone. And so with the organizational planning, we continue to look at the proposals that we have before us, and we'll be making decisions soon. And so that is really assessing this tremendous growth that we've had over the last few years, and ensuring that we're really building off of our strengths and streamlining things where we need to in order to really be operating at a higher capacity with the great staff that we have. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And I also just want to give a big shout out to Andrew Predez and my appreciation because this will be his last state housing board meeting as a DOH employee. So wanted to wish him all the best in his transition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, if there are no questions for either of us, all the best, Andrew. Thank you.
I'll echo that, Andrew. Thank you so much for your collaboration and all of the wonderful work and transformation you've helped take part in with DOH since you've been here. It's been a pleasure working with you. You will be missed. Let's go ahead and jump to the project application review stage. Thanks for those comments, Allison. We'll start off with ArtSpace Colorado Springs, and presenting today is Fallon Miller.
Thank you, Anthea. So this project is back to us again. We had originally awarded them an HDG award a while back, and they had lost their GC and has since contracted with a new GC and are ready to proceed. Of course, some additional costs have came up due to timing of losing their first GC and the pricing now. And I will hand it over to Lucas and Will if they have anything they would like to add for you all today.
Thanks, Fallon. I don't think Will is able to join, unfortunately, so I'll just kind of sub in. This project, we've been working in Colorado Springs trying to deliver high quality, affordable housing in Colorado Springs for about 6 years now. It was really unfortunate that we weren't able to continue down the path with our former GC, but working really hard with Fallon and others at DOLA to make sure that this project could stay online and in track to deliver 51 units of affordable housing has been a really great effort by everybody. And so I just want to emphasize that we are in a position where we want to make sure that we utilize the resources that have been put into this deal by the state, by the county, by the city, and others to make sure that this housing is delivered to the community. So your support today and making sure that these awards can move forward would go a long way to make sure that could happen. So with that, I just humbly request your support.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Sam.
Thank you, Anthea. Thanks for the presentation. I've noticed that the ArtSpace subsidy requirement from the state has been into hundreds of thousands of dollars for the past projects, and this one is a fairly large amount for your ask, generally speaking, for projects that you've done in Colorado, and yet all the units are at 60%. Is there any effort that you can see that you can bring some of these units in at 30%, which is generally where the biggest need is for most units in the state? I'm sure artists are no exception to that.
I think at this point in time, the way that this project was underwritten and delivered to CHFA and to others was at 60% area median income units. I don't think that with the amount of, I should point out that the 2.4 million from that funding is a second mortgage. And so we have 3 different sources of must pay debt. And the 60% units definitely help deliver that debt to the project. At this time, there's not the ability to offer any deeper affordability and make the project pencil.
Have you had a conversation with the Colorado Springs Housing Authority, Lucas, and was there any opportunity to put any vouchers in there?
The Colorado Springs Housing Authority is a part of the deal in terms of its nonprofit status to have abatement, but there are not any Colorado Springs vouchers in this deal.
Okay. Thank you.
Ryan.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Koski. A couple of questions real quick, just I guess kind of bring me up to speed again on this project. So you mentioned that there was a change in the GC. What was the reason why there was a change specifically?
Yeah, so we went under construction, gave the notice to proceed in March of last year. About 6 weeks into the project, we had noticed that there were multiple things on the timeline that were not going to be met due to some oversight issues, as well as change orders that were going to put the project out of balance really rapidly. And in working through those issues, it became clear that either we would be pushing those issues further down the road, or being in a point where we would not be able to solve some of the problems that seem to be cropping up. So as soon as we were finished with demolition, before we had started the foundation work, we made the decision to terminate that contract, mutual termination, find a local general contractor who was aware of the project and had put in an RFP to it, reprice the project and move forward with Bryant Construction. So hopefully that answers your question as to why we decided to move on from the general contractor at that time.
No, I appreciate that. And so it kind of leads me into a couple more questions here. So you mentioned issues with contract oversight. And so what corrective actions have been taken moving forward to make sure that we don't have another general contractor changeover due to I'm presuming it's a lack of technocratic expertise to hold the contractor to standard to make sure that taxpayers are getting the best value for resources spent to avoid another $422K increase. So that's part one of that.
So to answer the first question, one of the issues we had was the former GC did not understand that the foundation drawings needed to be resupplied by the technical subcontractor once the building had got into permit. And so we were a few weeks behind on that, which seemed like it would cause an avalanche of problems. That has all been taken care of, so that specific issue is no longer a problem. And then in working with our new contractor, Brian, to not only reprice this issue, but make sure that we could be delivering this project on a much tighter timeline. We've gone through the documents pretty far at length with our architect and with our GC to make sure that there are no other outstanding issues that might cause a similar thing. And then, quite honestly, it's a lot of it is just being in the same room at the same time and maintaining good communication and being on top of all deliverables. So I can't say that there's one specific thing that would change because the issue that we had is in the past. But in terms of, making sure that all T's are crossed and I's dotted, there was a moment of that it would have behooved us to triple check to make sure that the contractor is doing all the things that they had said they were doing.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your candor and your consideration.
Lucas, I've got a few questions for you. First one is on the GC and just the overall total development cost seem high. It looks like this is an elevator building, 5 stories. So it could just be the type of construction, but can you talk a little bit about the RFP process that you alluded to? How many bids did you get in and how competitive is the one that you landed with?
Sure. So the RFP process was taking place in August and September of 22. So I don't have those numbers directly in front of me. So just to be clear, we did the RFP process before the original closing in December of 22. And then after we closed and we terminated our contract with the then GC and switched to a new one, we didn't open back up that RFP, but we did select a contractor who had gone through that process. I believe in August, September of 22, there was 6 respondents with 5 complete on-time submissions. Turner had, who was our original GC, I should be clear about that, they had scored the highest out of the 5 categories we tracked with, I believe, the either tied for the lowest and best quality or providing that. And Brian, who we moved on and who is local, was second best. I don't remember who the other 3 completed applicants were off the top of my head, to be honest.
So when you pivoted to Brian, then you just had him update his cost. You didn't necessarily go out and get an updated RFP.
We did not do another formal RFP process. We did talk with a few other contractors to see if they were interested in helping us out and seeing whether or not we could, quite honestly, slide into the deal and continue construction kind of on that timeline. When it was clear that we could not, we decided that we wanted to move forward with Brian. And we tried to make an effort to restart the process last fall. When it was clear that the funds would have to be raised to make the project in balance, we decided that making sure that the whole project was accounted for, and our lender and investor team said that we would need to restructured closing to move forward with the deal and then install the new GC.
Okay, thank you for that. I've got a couple more questions here. Was land donated? It looks like land cost is zero.
Land was donated. Part of the money that was raised at the state level went to the former landowner to help pay down the cost of land. So we raised money outside of this TDC, I believe, to pay for it. But inside the project deal, the land was a $1 purchase.
And Thea, those dollars came from OEDIT and are not listed in the funding sources.
So how much was that? You know,
$1.8 million.
$1.8 million of OEDIT funds were used to pay down the land. Okay. Construction is expensive. The last question I have is the Chase Bank comment that they are deciding whether or not they want to move forward on the construction loan. Do you have an update on that?
The update is that Chase is talking with Raymond James, our syndicator, and they are finalizing the details. I do not have any final formal say yes or no. I wish I did for this meeting, but as of the moment, I'm still waiting to hear the finalized approval.
And so it says they're concerned about the tight timeline on the bonds. Can you expand on that? What are they worried about? And are they the end equity investor with Raymond James?
They're the upper tier investor, yes. Okay. So Chase, I'm gonna make sure I get these bank names correct. Chase is the construction lender. JP Morgan Chase is the upper tier investor. So from their side, they're two different entities, but obviously they're kind of under the same umbrella. The construction lender side is concerned that if we do meet all of our construction marks, that we have enough time to stabilize the deal before the bonds would be redeemed. We believe that we have about an 8-month window before that would happen, from construction completion and stabilization, between 6 to 8 months. So we're not concerned about that. Additionally, all of our lawyers, including bond counsel at Kutak Rock, have stated that as long as we are substantially complete in advance of February 15th of 26, I believe, that we would be able to, we'd be able to do a forbearance that would not impact the bonds. So we're not concerned from a developer side, and I don't think from other partners in the deal are concerned about that timeline, but our construction lender, specifically Chase, has raised that as an issue.
And Thea, and I'll add on that, we are still having weekly Friday meetings with everyone involved. Every financial partner down to the city and county level are meeting every Friday and discussing what folks are still needing to kind of get that clarity. And we're hoping for that clarity tomorrow. So we shall see.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts here. Okay, I think you've got one more question, Lucas, from Sam.
Great.
So Lucas, I'm kind of sitting here listening to all this, and I know no projects are easy today, but what's making this project so difficult?
I don't know if I have an easy answer that I could kind of wrap up. I think there's a confluence of probably events. One of the things was that we really wanted to make sure that we utilized the 4% tax credit with the local funds that had a bit of a timeline crunch in terms of closing on the private activity bonds. So in an ideal world, I think we would have had about a 6-month longer lead time to close the project back at the end of 22. That may or may not have laid some of the timing concerns. And then I think honestly, I was presenting to the Downtown Development Board of Colorado Springs this morning, kind of giving them an update. And one thing that's true in all businesses, but especially in construction, is relationships, right? Having a solid relationship with your architect, with your GC, with your lender, your investor team. And we had a virtual relationship with our then GC, Turner Construction. It was not based of being in the same room at the same time during the years of after COVID of developing that digital relationship. And I wish we would have had put more energy in the front of that, of having a personal relationship. So I feel much better about where we are now, having a good quality in-person relationship with our new GC, having a long track record with our architect and with other partners on the deal. And I feel much better about the trust that we all have around the table moving forward.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Lucas, that's it. Thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Well,
Appreciate
thank you
your
so much for the questions. If there's any clarifications after, I'm obviously happy to answer. So thank you, Fallon, for the time and the board. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks. Next up is Welton Elevation Community Land Trust, and Richard Stevenson will be presenting the borrower.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Martin and members of the board. With this project, Elevations Community Land Trust and the second presentation with Shanahan Development will produce, the Elevations Community Land Trust is requesting a state grant to help fund a gap in financing for this affordable home ownership project that will yield 62 permanently affordable for-sale condominium units. A couple of highlights about this project are the location in the heart of the rapidly gentrifying neighborhood of 5 Points. The units will be offered to the public for purchase with a selection process and preference for households who currently live in the community and/or have some historical ties to the community. The first floor of the building will have 5,000 square feet of commercial space, will be occupied by and provide for a grocery outlet to the community. And the building's location at the cross streets of Welton and 29th will be just a couple of blocks to light rail transportation. Here to present to the board today, we have Elevation Community Land Trust's President and Chief Executive Officer, Stefka Fanchi, along with Chief Financial Officer, Robin Hickey. And then to follow up in the second presentation, we will have Jeff Shanahan talking about the construction and the development as well.
Richard, can I just ask, are we doing the ECLT and the THLF combined since it's the same project?
That was the somewhat hope, but they are presented separately in the State Housing Board agenda. So we can do it whatever way suits the board.
I think it makes sense to combine it since it's the same project, and maybe Stefka and Jeff Shanahan can comment, and then we can follow up with questions if the board's okay with that. I see some nodding heads.
That would be great. So Stefka and Jeff, take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Richard, Anthea, and the State Housing Board for having us here today. We're really excited about the Welton condominium project. We are really excited to be able to bring 62 units to the 5 Points community, with including a lot of 3 bedrooms, which is really exciting for this neighborhood. Each of those 3 bedrooms will be parked. So we do have 33 parking spots for those. And this is going to be on an RTD parking lot. So right now, this is just a parking lot in the middle of a really vibrant neighborhood, and it's been a parking lot for a very long time. And you probably are all very familiar with this because that it's been tried again and again to develop this. And so we think we've got it. And RTD has agreed to sell this property for under market value, less than half actually, which is amazing. Another update here since you've received this packet is we've received $3 million in a Strong Communities grant to benefit this project. And we are working with Dura on some TIF financing as well. This is the result of, this is actually our third partnership with Shanahan Development, which is our very trusted partner who partnered with us on the Latela condominiums, the Burrell condominiums, which just received TCO last week. And now will be our third project together. So we're this is absolutely the result of a strong relationship moving forward. And it's the first time that we'll be asking the state for financing, which is what Jeff will talk about in a second, to help to blend down that rate on the front end so that we can lower that gap and ask for less on the back end. And if there's any questions about our role there, I'm happy to answer them before Jeff talks about that construction.
I think since we're going together, Stefka, I'll just jump in on the construction loan.
Yeah.
So like Stefka said, this $5 million loan will keep project costs down, and instead of going to for-profit lenders, we'll just keep the project costs down. My goal at some point is to have one of these projects with no bank debt on it to save the interest cost. In the interest savings on this, just for perspective, we'll basically pay for a unit, almost pay for a whole unit, the interest that we're saving with this money. And a short story about the previous project. We locked in the financing on that deal at 3.5%. Couldn't get them to do a fixed rate, and so it was floating. And so that project went from a 3.5% interest rate to a 9.5 in the matter of 12 months. And it was just killer to that project. And with the help of Elevation and the partnership there, we were able to find cheaper debt, scrambling. But that would have killed the project if we would have had to keep that 9.5% throughout the whole thing. And so having interest rates that we know are consistent and saving the project a ton of money, I think are a big deal on these home ownership projects.
I'll add to that, just even though that you've got a solution for that, which is asking for this loan. But the other thing that happens when interest rates go up in the middle of a project, right, is that for home ownership, that's going to impact the mortgages on the back end, which is a significant part of our takeout. And so, we experience a gap when we have that construction interest go up, and then another gap when the mortgage interest goes up because we have to lower the the home prices as well. And so stabilizing interest rates is really, really critical in getting us to a place where we can deliver homeownership units in a way that we don't have to come back and ask for increased funding throughout the project.
Great. Thank you, Stefka and Jeff, for that presentation. Can I just ask for some clarification here? It's homeownership, for sale condos, it says type of housing, multifamily apartments, but I'm assuming it's for sale condos.
Absolutely. Yes. I don't see where that's. Yeah.
One more quick clarification. We got $2.5 million in Stronger Communities. We asked for 3 and got 2.5.
Apologies.
But
Okay.
Right.
And so with this THLF loan, then the repayment for DOH will come once all of these units are sold, correct?
No. So interestingly, I probably should have mentioned this. So this is the third time that we're replicating this partnership. And so Shanahan Development is actually taking on the construction debt, the construction risk, and then we are actually coming in with a purchase and sale agreement from day one, so that we'll be purchasing the project upon completion. And so our grant request will come in as down payment of that acquisition at the end of the day, right? And so that acquisition will be paid off. That'll pay off your debt, and then we will sell the units.
So the THLF loan to Shanahan, how does that get paid off? With your grant, is what you're saying?
With their takeout, yeah.
With our takeout, which is partially with the grants, but it's also, so as an example, with the Burrell, right now, we have a loan from Chaffa for the acquisition of the entire building. That is a short-term bridge loan while we sell off those units, which even when we have pre-sales, it takes time just to close all of those units.
Okay. Sam?
So, thank you, Anthony. So Stefka, you become a single purchaser then of all the units?
That's right.
And then, so then you bear the risk of the, the time to turn the units over and all of that. I'm just kind of curious why, and maybe this is really a question for the staff, is this the most efficient way to utilize the funds, is to give it to two different entities rather than find a way to just capitalize one entity like Stefka's? And then you only have one entity that you have to monitor and things like that. I'm just kind of curious, why does this work like this better?
So it looks like staff wants to answer, but I would also like to let you know from our perspective why that works. But I'll let Andrew answer from staff's perspective.
So I was just, mention that, that this is kind of how we envision the transformational loan fund working. Really, it's like short-term loans, that we could offer to developers, get paid back in a, short amount of time. Unfortunately, we can't, make a grant to one. And I mean, we could make a loan to ECLT, but they're not really constructing the project. And so, it is a little bit more complicated with the two contracts. And but I think we've planned for the most efficient monitoring of the, the two funding sources. So.
Good. Stefka, did you want to add to that?
Yeah. So from our perspective, we really like this partnership model because it's allowed us to scale very quickly because our capital doesn't get tied up in one project at a time. And rather, we're able to roll it through multiple projects in a way that's allowed us to scale more quickly and to serve more communities at the same time. So, and it also de-risks the project for both Elevation and the developer and the lenders as well, right? So we're not taking on the construction risk, the developers, and that's who, they're staying in their lane, and we're working on what we do well, which is that buyer pipeline and doing that long-term stewardship and compliance work, right? And we are assuming some of that debt and those long-term. So for example, we have the city will offer us a loan that is a performance loan, right? So it is a grant, but it's based on performance. And so all of that compliance goes to us, and that's something that we are set up to be able to manage over time.
I like that answer. The project, obviously, because it's a condo project, comes with some additional risk of construction defects. Who manages that in this litigious society of ours, and who's responsible for that? Is it the developer, or is it your firm, the nonprofit, Stefka? Who takes on that responsibility?
Yeah, I would say to a large degree it's shared. I mean, ultimately, it's still the developer and the general contractor's risk. However, because we're a community land trust model and we continue to own that land, we are members of the HOA moving forward, right? And because we have that relationship with our homeowners, where we're not just, you know, the faceless developer that they purchased it from, where we continue to, I know, Jeff. You're not the faceless developer. Anyway, so that, you know, that we're there, and they know us. And so the idea that they want is to have anything cured, right? And so we're part of those conversations, and we just have a different relationship that's ongoing that we hope will engender more trust moving forward.
Okay, thanks so much.
LaDawn?
So I'm taking us on a new topic, and I noticed Wayne had his hand up. Wayne, were you clarifying something that's a topic right now?
I was prepared to offer more clarification until I heard Sam say he was good to go. So
Okay, perfect.
I will say nothing.
Okay. So I noticed that you requested just over 4.3 million, and staff is recommending 3.1 million of Prop 123 funds. That's quite a significant gap for this project. What's the plan for finding the additional funds?
Robin, would you like to jump in here?
Sure, yeah. Oh, and Jeff, please feel free to jump in on your side as well. The plan right now, one, we had asked for $3 million for strong communities. We had assumed we were only going to get 2 because they have historically haircut those. So we got a little bit more in strong communities than what we had projected in our original application. So that helped to close a little bit of that gap. We are hoping to get some additional funding from Dura compared to what we had originally projected in our application with that request. And we are just having to go out and either look at how we're structuring and projecting for future increases in AMIs and potential mortgage interest rates at the time the units deliver, or just do additional fundraising to close that gap. It is, I do think that what we asked for originally tied pretty closely to what the need for this type of project is. Condos are it's expensive to build, and it's a deep subsidy level that's needed in order to get these units to market. So we always figure out a way to make it work, and we plan to do the same for this project.
Yeah, I noticed your sale price was a very good sale price. So I know you have to come up with that other funding somewhere to make that work.
Yeah, and the sale price, I do want to clarify, there was a note about the sale price in the State Housing Board packet, that there could be additional revenue if we price the units to 80% AMI. We do price our units to 70% AMI and allow anybody up to 80% AMI to move in and purchase a home. And that gives us that marketing window to ensure that we're able to actually sell the units when they come to market. If we price them at exactly 80 and only had qualifications up to 80, it would be really hard to get somebody who both qualified for a mortgage and could move into the home. So that's the reason for our approach on pricing.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Steph and Jeff, for the presentation and to all for the conversation. Next up is a request from Impact Development Fund. And Andy, how do you say your last name?
It's Casca.
Casca. Andy Casca will be presenting.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We're excited to present the last of the Affordable Investment Fund applications for your consideration. Impact Development Fund proposes to use $10 million in AHIF funds to expand its existing first mortgage program to enable prospective homeowners to access below market mortgages so they can purchase affordable homes. With that, I'd like to introduce Megan Ferguson with the Impact Development Fund to talk more about their program.
Thanks, Andy. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Ferguson. I'm the CEO for Impact Development Fund. I feel like Stefka really helped me out with this conversation. She may have led us right into a great conversation about how affordable mortgage financing can help close the gap on homeownership projects. So yeah, there's the thumbs up. Thank you, Stefka. I just want to thank the division as well for allowing us this opportunity. The AHIF dollars really have been a tremendous tool in our tool belt to act as an intermediary to the market and provide affordable housing funds under our other programs with multifamily rentals. This is the first and only AHIF application that addresses first mortgage financing. So we're really thrilled, given the interest rate environment and the impact that these dollars can have, not only on affordably developed homeownership units like Elevation and like some of our other partners across the state, but also unlocking market rates, market properties, right, that aren't specifically deed restricted already, that aren't under an affordable housing umbrella. This provides us with another tool to also unlock affordability in market sales. So we appreciate this type of funding on the financing, on the mortgage side, as well as, you know, on the development side, to really tackle this from two angles. So with that, the $10 million, we are at this point adding it to an existing $30 million pool that we have and are administering. The funds currently in that pool are largely restricted by use with certain partners or geographically focused because of our other capital providers. And so this allocation would really unlock all of the areas throughout the state. It opens up the geography and provides, you know, really a geographic fill to make sure that there's products throughout the state. We have a significant pipeline, not only with our partners that are building affordable homeownership units, but also employers. We have large employers that we work with on the West Slope and on the Eastern Plains that are really doubling down on homeownership opportunities for their employees. Having a affordably priced mortgage to go with those development efforts is really transformative for those communities and the developments in rural areas. So we're very excited. Last year alone, Impact Development Fund, we closed 472 mortgages in 2023. And that's largely despite the high interest rate environment. So we did that with some below cost first mortgages. We also closed quite a bit of down payment assistance loans throughout the state, again, as a way to blend down the financing rate. And we also dispersed over 2,000 grants to direct to consumer home ownership resources. So from a scale, a reach, and a partnership level, this $10 million, we feel really confident around our ability to deploy statewide, deploy into underserved markets throughout the state, as well as high cost areas, whether it's along the Front Range or in the mountain communities. So with that, I'll stop and would love to entertain any questions from the group.
Thank you, Megan. To clarify, this request for funding has nothing to do with Evergreen Real Estate Group, the developer that's on the screen, correct?
Oh, gosh, I didn't even see that there. You're right. There is no developer.
Okay.
This is not a project.
Let everyone know on the call.
Thanks. I was just Googling Evergreen Real Estate Group and trying to figure out the connections. So thanks for clarifying, Anthea.
I was trying to figure out the connection too when you said it. Now I see where that was coming from. No, there is no project. This is a fund request, not a project request.
Excellent. Any questions from the board? Sam?
Thank you, Anthea. Megan, you know, I'm a huge supporter of your program, and congratulations on your recent appointment.
Thank you, Sam.
To CEO. Well-deserved appointment, by the way.
Thank you.
Just a curious question, and I might have missed it in the write-up, the $10 million, how many additional mortgages do you think that will support?
I knew that question was coming, and if we look at where we're sitting for primary first mortgages at market, if we look at a $375,000 mortgage, that only affords us about 27 units, 27 loans, where I think we have opportunity in that this is additional capital into a fund, and we have down payment assistance resources throughout the state that we can stack with these dollars. My hope is that we're able to increase the number of mortgages we provide by reducing the amount of the first mortgage, making it more affordable, also making the funds last longer. The fact that these will be fully amortized 30-year fixed rate mortgages means that we anticipate about $10,000 per loan per year recycling back into the fund. So with those monthly payments, this isn't a deferred interest only or anything like that. So we are getting those capital repayments back every month, which will help us recycle the fund quicker than some of our other commercial products and things like that. So it's not a high quantity, just given where we're at with the cost of housing. But I am encouraged that we can spread the dollars for the maximum benefit and recycle them quickly, to really get the leverage out of this fund.
And historically, what has been the AMI level of the families that have participated in this program?
So in our history, largely we've served 80% or less of AMI. Under this funding source, we have asked for an increased AMI, 120% in urban areas, and I believe 160 in resort. And Andy, I may need you to clarify if I got that wrong, but under AHIF, we did adopt those AMI limits so that we could serve the resort communities as well.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Great. Well, thank you, Megan. Appreciate the presentation.
Thanks.
Next, we'll move on to the project application and AHIP 23 vote. If I could ask if there are any board members that need to recuse themselves from any of these applications.
I do.
James,
And
which one?
the Welton projects.
The Welcome projects. Okay, noted. Thank you. And Sam, you have, remind me what you have. Whose vote do you have in your hand? Is it Monique?
Yes, I think I have,
Is it Monique's proxy?
no. Well, let's see. Yeah, I don't know that I have anyone's this week, do I?
Is it Candace?
Is Candace on? I may
No,
have.
Candace is not on, so you probably have hers, Sam, if you've got one.
Okay. I've got Candace's then.
Yeah, we'll have to follow up on that. I don't know if it was Candace.
Yeah, let me go back and I can check my emails real quick.
Okay.
Right.
All right. We'll figure that out. You might have two votes. Okay, so let's go ahead and if I could ask for a motion for approval for Art Space Impact Development Fund.
So moved. This is Ladon.
Second, James.
Thanks, Ladon, for the motion. James for the second. All those in favor signified by aye or hand raised.
Aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Next up, the Welton ECLT and the THLF request with James recusing himself. I can ask for a motion of approval.
So moved. This is Ladon.
Second, this is Ryan.
Thanks, Ladon and Ryan. All those in favor signified by an aye or a hand raise.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Excellent. Well, thank you all for your attendance today. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, and congratulations to everyone who received an award today.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Congratulations.